Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Espinoza, and I'd like to welcome you all to our exciting webinar on Shaping the Future, KPF's Innovative Transformation with D5 and AI. I'm thrilled to have you here today, and I hope you are as eager as I am to dive into this fascinating topic. Before we get started, let's take a few moments to go over the agenda. We'll start by discussing the latest updates from D5 Render and giving you a sneak peek at our exciting roadmap. Following that, we'll move on to our main topic and hear from our amazing guests. Don't forget to stick around until the end to complete a quick survey, and we'll grant you a 7 to 15-day trial of D5 Render Pro. I also have a couple of important notes. First, we are recording the session, and we'll share a copy with you shortly after the webinar. Second, if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the comment section, and we'll be happy to review them after this webinar. So let's get started. I hope you all had the chance to explore all the new features that came with D5 Render 2.7 because they were game changers. First up, we upgraded our AI atmosphere match. We received a ton of positive feedback when we initially launched this feature in version 2.6. Building on that success, we've enhanced the AI model to deliver even more accurate and stunning results. We've also rolled out some incredible new AI features, including AI Ultra HD texture and AI Make Seamless. With these, you no longer need external tools to create photorealistic materials. Everything you need is right at your fingertips in D5 Render. Lastly, we've introduced a D5 Scatter, an innovative new tool that allows you to quickly generate large amounts of plants in your scene. This means you can enrich your environment with greater efficiency and unleash your creativity like never before. But that's not all. We're thrilled to announce that the release of version 2.8 is just around the corner. With this update, we're introducing several new features that will elevate your rendering workflow. First off, we have the AI Enhancer. This powerful feature gives you more control when upscaling your images, offering a user-friendly interface for making regional enhancements. You can improve your lighting, textures, people, and so much more. We're also introducing the AO Overlay, which will be found in your Effects tab and be applied directly in your viewport. This feature enhances the details and edges and corners, resulting in more dynamic and visual captivating images. No need for post-processing. We're also expanding our LifeSync capabilities to support Rhino and Vectorworks. This means you'll be able to see your modeling changes in real time, making your workflow smoother and more efficient than ever before. Now, Now that we've explored all the amazing features coming your way with D5 Render, it's time to introduce our fascinating speakers for today's webinar. I'm delighted to be joined by Andy, the Applied Research and Project Innovation Manager at KPF, and Sharel from the Design and Technology Studio at KPF. Andy and Sharel have played pivotal roles in integrating D5 Render into their workflow and to that of their teams. Andy and Sharel will share their insights and experiences on how D5 Render has transformed their projects and enhanced their creativity process. So, Andy and Sharel, I will hand the floor over to you. Let's get started, and thank you all so much.
Hey everybody, thanks for the intro, Jeff. That was great. Yeah, we're excited to talk to everybody about how we've been implementing D5 into KPF's workflow. So before we get too deep into the presentation, we just want to give like a brief overview of what we'll be talking about. One, we'll give some context as to like who we are, who KPF is, and why we're giving this conversation. And we're going to talk a little bit about tool adoption within the firm. Sharel will be going over a fantastic case study she did to kind of help drive why we went with D5, and we'll close everything off with our future plans with D5. So a little bit about myself. I am the Project Innovation Manager at KPF. A lot of what I do is related to R&D, so mostly on the AI and visualization side. My job is to find new up-and-coming technologies and understand how we can leverage them into the firm. I'm a licensed architect by trade, so having that that background really enables me to have these conversations with the studio to really understand what they need.
Hi everyone, I'm Sharel Liu. My work at KPF falls within design technology, and I work closely with Andy on the applied technology and visualization front. So the areas that we cover are really tool agnostic. Anywhere there's a problem, we'll be there to approach it.
right, cool. So for those who don't know us, KPF, we are a global firm. We have many offices throughout the world, and we work on really large projects. We're really well known for our large, tall buildings. We've done 6 of the world's 12 tallest buildings. Huge accomplishment. And the reason I bring this up is just so everyone understands like what the lens is or this perspective is when we're working and trying to find new tools. It needs to work at this scale. So here's an example of some of the projects we've done. Hudson Yards, if you're from New York, you understand just like the scale of it. We don't just do one building. We almost do neighborhoods. We do blocks, right? So it's not just one project we're working with. We've worked with some of the largest brands in the world. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you actually choose a Viz tool for a firm. So as of recent, we kept seeing almost like patterns from the firm using our previous tools. The studio wanted more from us, right? They wanted to improve the Viz quality. The previous tools, they felt like they were outdated. The quality wasn't what we wanted. And we just really wanted to elevate the visualization quality floor. Now we've really embraced AI. Generative AI is like a core part of the KPF design workflow. So we wanted tools that actually embraced it to make things a little bit easier for us. We wanted to reduce the tedium with like making, textures and everything. We wanted tools that would actually automate a lot of the things, typical designers don't want to do. And of course, tool compatibility. We work with a wide array of different softwares. So we wanted to make sure that we can grab models from Revit or Rhino, and they live in one model. We didn't want to be limited by our rendering engine's capabilities. And dev support. This was a huge thing. We have a lot of users that generate fantastic feedback. And what we've noticed with our previous rendering partners is just anytime we have a feature request, it might take a year or 2 years to actually see that implemented, which is way too slow for what we need. We need fantastic turnaround. And D5 has been great with just taking our feedback, and within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, we actually get that into the next release, which is huge for us. And then lastly, scalable firm standards. We want to have some sort of control over the actual output of our images. We want to make sure everything's up to KPF standards, and we want to save people time. We've designed so many buildings, there's no reason for us to reinvent the wheel with every single project. We can reuse materials or lighting standards between projects, so people who are new to a team or to the firm could just get started without having to remake something that's been done 1,000 times. So here comes D5, which brings a slew of great tools for us. Fantastic realism. Everything is in real time. We're able to generate stills, animations. We can do our presets, which I was talking about with firm-wide standards. We have VR support, 360 support, and for us, simultaneous users. So the work step technology of having 5 people working on the same model at the same time is huge, because like you saw before with the scale of our projects, it's very rare for us to do one project. So we're going to go a little bit more into a case study that kind of made D5 make so much sense for us. Here's a little teaser of that. The built project is on the left and a rendering is on the right. So the results were incredible, how close we could get to the real thing in just a short period of time. So I want to talk about how adoption works. For any of those that are in the design technology world at your firm and you really want to drive a new tool's adoption, I want to talk about our experience. So how this usually works is we have an initial idea. So for us, we had all those issues from our designers talking about the rendering tools. Let's look at the marketplace and see what exists. So this is where we came across D5, and we started our own internal R&D just to see if it makes sense as a tool. It passed that round, and this is where we do a pilot program. This is when we get a couple of the teams, a couple power users to start experimenting with the tool, do small vignettes, and see if they like it. If they like it, then that's a success, right? Then from there, we start generating case studies, because at this point, that means the pilot teams have adopted it. There's real success there, and we start publishing these stories within the firm. And some of the things we've started to see were pretty incredible. If a typical external rendering image costs $1,500 to $2,000 and takes 2 weeks, and takes 20 hours of our time to actually polish to get that sent out to the client, that's a lot of time and money. We could easily spend, $40,000 to $60,000, between internal labor and external rendering to actually get that to the client. That's a lot of money and a lot of time. So what teams were doing is they were actually ordering less external renderings, and they were using D5 to supplement something. So instead of having 20 professional renderings done, maybe they bring that down to 5, and 15 are through D5. So not only is that a huge cost savings, but that's a huge time savings. You don't need to mark up someone else's work, have them work on it for a couple of days, send it back, and then rinse and repeat. This is all internal. So yes, there's definitely some more work on our side, on the internal side, to create these visualizations, but this is something we're doing anyways, right? So it wasn't that much of an extra lift, and especially to save all that time and money, it was a no-brainer. So once we started publishing these case studies, we kind of felt like some teams were seeing this, and we basically joked that it was almost like FOMO was spreading throughout the office, like, oh wow, team XYZ is doing this. Their renderings look great. What is that? Can we get on board? And we've really seen just in the past couple months of piloting and testing D5 and implementing it, we have a lot of teams. Like our workspace is about 100 people, 100 users, and KPF is only 600 people. So that's essentially like 1 out of 6 people are already using or know of D5, which is huge. So we plan to continue this path of publishing more case studies and doing more projects and just comparing to our previous rendering engines. So, if you're interested in like how adoption works, what we found to be the most successful thing is running a lot of workshops. And, some of these were led by Jeff and the D5 team, and some of them were led by us internally, just to show teams like what can be done. We'll sit in a conference room for an hour or two, and we'll work through a project and just get everyone familiar with the workflow. Then we'll do, more intimate, team onboardings. Like we have this team that's super interested. We'll sit down with them. We'll talk about any struggles or friction or workflows and get them onboarded. And that's been really, really effective. Then we have what we call a community group. We basically have a super large group chat of all of our users, and we're constantly sharing tips and tricks, asking for tips and advice, sharing progress. And it's a great way to just motivate people and get this information out that like, oh, this team did that awesome rendering. How did they do that? I want to do that. And just building that community around the tool makes it so much easier to adopt. And then lastly, we've been a big fan of the Scene Express and all the tutorial videos that D5 puts out. With Scene Express, we're able to just like hop into an environment and kind of take it apart because, we only have a couple months of experience with D5, but being able to see how the pros do it and then use the same workflows for ourselves, that's been huge. So I want to leave this section with a little quote of ours. Rather than finding the absolute best tool, I think it's really important to focus on finding the one that aligns the most with your team. So it's not always about tools with every single functionality or piece of bells and whistles, right? It's what makes the most sense for your team. So some like little tips is I think it's important to figure out what the easy wins are. If you saw earlier on all the problems I listed out, how do you reduce friction there? And, who are those champions that help drive adoption throughout the firm? And most importantly is like, don't come off as a salesperson. Like, since, we're architecturally trained, we understand the issues and the workflow friction that people were experiencing before. We're able to kind of translate that into an easy answer for that. And the fact that like we're able to save money and time, this is just a no-brainer for leadership to kind of push this throughout the firm. So we've had a great time adopting it, but I think it's all these little steps that we've been talking about that got us to this point. So we want to touch upon like some features that we really love, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why adoption has been so great at KPF. Is first thing is the AI atmosphere match. It's just insane that you can grab an image, you upload it, and then it changes all your light and your weather settings and time of day, and the coloring and everything. So here's like a little study we did. I've got my laser pointer here. These are all reference images at the bottom, and this is the scene, our D5 scene, based off of that image. So instead of us sitting there to try and do 6 different light setups, because that would take days, we're able to just upload 6 different images, get that, save the scene, and then move on. So If a PM has an idea for a specific aesthetic, they can find a reference image, whether it's from like Google Images or Pinterest. We drop that in, and there we go. We don't need to sit there and tinker, because tinkering can take a lot of time, right? How do you set up a night scene? You've got to change your time of day. You've got to change the coloring of the effects, and that can take a really long time. We really want tools that can help expedite that. So this has been huge for us. I talked earlier about scalable settings. This idea that we have a cloud environment where we can upload presets, some environment settings that we found really valuable to kind of, give to the firm. So again, people don't have to tinker. We've figured this out. Pick which one you like, whether it's D5 curated or one of ours. It's a great way for them to get started. Another thing is, our previous tools, they made it really difficult to upload maps or generate maps. And what happens in the design environment is we'll usually have a picture that we take or we grab from a website of the texture we want, right? And a lot of designers, they're not specialists. They don't understand, the full visualization, PBR workflow. So they don't know that they need a normal map or a roughness map. So for them to just be able to grab the image, make it high quality and seamless, and then have D5 automatically generate the texture maps for them, like that saves them, how many hours, and that's done in just a couple minutes. So huge fan of that. And again, if you've never used that function, it's right up here. And it's this little blue guy after you upload a texture map. So for the situations where we don't have a photo or a reference, the asset library is really, really detailed. And there's just so many different types of metals, which is great because a lot of what we do are, skyscrapers. There's pretty much every tree we would ever need in here. And it works really well with applying materials to our models. You can see the raw model here. Each color gets picked up as one material ball. So it's very easy to kind of paint the whole project. I talked about this earlier, but with Scene Express, it's just awesome seeing what the community has generated and being able to go into each page, download the file, and then fly around it for a couple of minutes to see like, oh, this is a really cool lighting effect. I can copy this, or I can understand how they did that or achieve that. Like this scene, it was great to go in there and kind of see how they did the motion blur effect. And then scatter, Jeff talked about this before, but like I was saying, we deal with like the block or urban scale. So it's really difficult for us to kind of go in there and paint every single bush or plant. So the ability to just take a swath of land and convert it to vegetation, like that's a huge time saver. And this is what the firm wants. The firm doesn't want to do all these laborious tasks. They want quick results of high quality.
And in continuation of that theme of doing more in less time, D5 also offers these animation presets. In a lot of situations, you'll find that you'll be doing a pan or a zoom, but here, without recreating the camera paths, every single time you have a new project, you can easily use the off-the-shelf ones provided here. In addition to that, D5 also offers the interior parallax effect. You may have noticed that in the past, especially to do with close-up retail scenes, you may have had to rebuild the interiors of those areas. But with interior parallax and the customization sliders that are on the right side, you can easily recreate these scenes and create realism in much less time. Depending on scale, you might want to use interior parallax for a closer up view and then a light box for an aerial view. D5 offers the capabilities to do both, depending on your needs. And then they also offer the ability to save these environmental settings. So as you can see here, we go from a daytime view to a nighttime view. And during the transition, your layers that you want to show up, such as vegetation or certain trees, they're saved per view. Something else that we appreciate is that we're able to bring in assets from a wide variety of sources. As you can see here, you can bring in something that someone may have worked on in Revit or in Rhino or have as an FBX, and combine all that with some of the native tools such as Scatter or the asset library and create this complete work set that is very collaborative. Something else that's very helpful is the camera sync. So here you can see a side-by-side of our Rhino and our D5 file. What you see in the D5 file are all of the assets. So this keeps your Rhino file very lightweight. And in addition to that, with the camera sync function, you can navigate around the D5 file intuitively before you get used to some of the methods of orbiting within D5. Here's an aerial breakdown that we prepared for you. So something that was very beneficial was the fact that we were able to have all of these various effects and in real time and render out at a very quick speed. So things with fog, clouds, illumination, and light scattering, typically those are very compute intensive. It's highly appreciative when these kinds of effects can come out quickly. So here's also a comparison of the rendering time between the photo and what we did in D5. Here's a side-by-side of the different rendering software out there in the market. And you just want to highlight some of the different features that you can see over here. The rendering times are quite comparable with things out there, and really depending on your team's needs, say you want more reflective glass that is compelling, then it's clear which one you might want to go with. Here's another comparison of the exterior, very close alignment with the project. Then with the interior, this is the effect we were able to achieve. And I think we can say that it's even more compelling. Same with another view of the atrium.
Awesome, thanks, Sharel. Yeah, and then we're briefly going to talk about our future plans with D5. So the overall case studies and adoption has been great, but one thing we want to roll out is like more and more global templates, whether that's more environment setting or material settings. We have a vast material library that we want to get onto the cloud. That way people don't need to keep remaking the same metal that they've used a dozen times before. We'll also be working on like custom scatter presets. There's like specific vegetation we use in different areas of the world. So being able to have that, and then someone who's got no experience to drag and drop, like that's a huge time saver. And then lastly, just moving forward, it's like, can we make D5 render our default rendering option? And I think we're close. We're basically like our adoption's going straight up. Again, it's only been a couple months, and I think it's just a moment of time until we see D5 overtake our other rendering options. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll do a follow-up, but yeah, I think this has been a great conversation. If you guys want to connect with us and talk to us more about this or have any questions in the chat, happy to answer them. But yeah, thanks everyone for your time.
Sorry, can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me? Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, technical difficulties. Yeah, so no, as I was saying, again, I just reiterate, and I just wanted to thank Andy and Sharel for that amazing presentation and for sharing those incredible insights. it's truly mind blowing, just the amazing like results that you guys have gotten and how you guys have been able to utilize all the amazing D5 render features into your workflow. So yeah, just can't wait to see what other amazing renderings come out of KPF. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. Your time is truly invaluable. So if you could just do us one quick favor and scan this QR code. Any comments on how we can improve our webinars would be great, as well as any features you'd like to see in D5 Render would also be great. So yeah, if you could go ahead and scan this QR code, you'll get a 7 to 15-day trial on D5 Render Pro and all the amazing features that you can use. So yeah, that wraps up today's session for today. A big thank you once again to our presenters, Andy and Sharel. We appreciate your expertise and the valuable information you've shared. And to all of you who joined us today, thank you again for your time. Your participation means a lot to us. So we hope you found today's session informative and enjoyable. So we look forward to welcoming you to another webinar soon enough. Take care and have a wonderful day. Thank you.